We are back. Our final segment this morning, Professor Thomas Schwartz from Vanderbilt is with us. The number 737-7587. I think we both are kind of consensus. It's not clear to us how the results of this impeachment proceeding is going to play out in the presidential election until probably we get to November.
Right.
That's crazy. So was this then a calculated gamble when her hand was finally forced, I think, maybe Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, to say, let's go ahead with this? Because she resisted. And I think to this day, if you got her candidly, she'd say, I'm not sure now, even now, it was the right thing to do.
She might, although I think she really, unless it's all an act, she really detests the president.
Well, didn't she, just at the end of the State of the Union?
She ripped up the speech and sort of made it very clear she thinks the president is a liar, and she really dislikes him intensely, so she may feel it's worth it. It's not going to cost her. I mean, certainly not politically. She faces no real issues. And the real question is whether, I mean, I think what would be the nightmare scenario would if the Republicans took back the House and Nancy Pelosi lost her position as Speaker. That would be the nightmare scenario for her. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Democrats will probably hold on to the House. But that would be that is certainly that would be the a real indication that it was a failure.
Gotcha. Let's go to Reverend Fuzz. Good morning, Reverend. It's good to hear from you. What do you think?
Hey, Nick. I've been counting up the numbers for the last 6 months, thinking of how President Trump had a 45% approval rating, and so that left 55%. And I would count, I said, just think, if 75% of his voters turn out and 50% of the Democratic voters turn out, Donald Trump would win. But what I found out yesterday when I called my pastor friend in Michigan, he immediately said, hey, I'm packing, I'm leaving the country. He was talking about this election. But what I said to him was that because it's so much in the news, that I'm suspecting there's going to be the highest voter turnout in the history of America, that people are going to go and vote. And then I did think that, and I think it's so unfair, I want to ask you this, how much do you think that President Trump's implying Joe Biden with Ukraine, was that a genius at work? Didn't that work to put him in last place? Because I'm going to tell you, as I heard the reports coming out about what his son had done, before I knew the real truth about everything, I was saying, wow, this is not good. This is not good. And then I saw that nothing had happened, that this guy had been cleared. And I said, America has an obligation, it seems, to let people know that this man has been cleared of this stuff. And so I want to actually say, how do you think that President Trump's scheme actually did work? And what obligation should we have to kind of defend that person who's being accused falsely like this? He did impact our elections by doing what he did with Ukraine and Joe Biden. That's what I'm thinking.
Hey, Reverend, real quick, before you run, and I'll let him answer it, I wanted to ask you, since I know you are very, very connected in this town and you're involved, do you get any sense at all among the African American community, at least in the world that you live in, whether or not some of the folks who maybe perhaps did not vote last election will go out and vote? And we know not as many voted as when Obama was in office. So do you think more will be turning out now among the African American community this next time than they did last time?
Like I said, I'm looking at and thinking it's going to be an American record turnout
among everyone.
And the reason I think that is because of so much education on the news, in the media. As people know better, they change their behavior. And so I think that people are really upset. All African Americans that I've been talking to, believe it or not, they're saying, Reverend, I'm going with Joe Biden. Or they'll say, Reverend, I'm going with whoever you go with. So it looks like that when President Biden comes to the Super Tuesday stuff, that he's going to do a landslide. But I'm wondering if this Trump implying that he was tied to Ukraine, if that really did work so much that it takes him out of the race.
All right, what do you think?
That's a fascinating point.
Well, that's what he was trying to do, maybe.
He was trying to do, just to suggest this sort of thing. The other side of it is, and this is something you get from reading a lot of political reporters. I haven't been directly watching or seeing a lot of Biden rallies, but they say that he's not exactly the best candidate. He is quite old. He sometimes gives off wandering speeches, this sort of thing. And it may be, I mean, Joe Biden might have been a stronger candidate 4 years ago. The 4 years have taken a toll in a way, and it's not just Ukraine. He does not seem to be connecting with people. He is the establishment choice, and he does have this absolutely strong African-American support. Iowa was not the place for that to be helping him, and him coming in fourth does not bode well. And I'm not sure it's all Ukraine. I actually also think it's partly that he's not as effective a candidate as he once was.
And I think you're right. I think everything you said there is right on point, and that concerned me even from the outside looking in. With regard to the Democrats looking at someone, are they going to go with the establishment, which we already know failed in their last run against the president? Right. And I think Biden's leading for one reason and one reason only. One, among African Americans, because of his close affiliation with President Obama, and two, name recognition. He's been around forever, and so of a lot of these names, I mean, that at least is one people recognize. But really, as the names get out there more and the field gets narrowed down, I think for the Democratic Party, I will not be surprised at all that what Bloomberg is counting on is going to happen. Biden will fall away. And I think maybe the Democratic Party may look at this too and realize that really head-to-head with Trump, he's not going to win.
That is the problem. Yeah.
Let's go next to, I think we've got Michael. Michael, good morning. Hi, Michael.
Yeah, I want to say what you were just saying about his name recognition. That's the reason his son got the position on the board of bereavement.
Sure.
And this is the first time that an impeachment has started in the Intelligence Committee. It should have been took out of the committee and put in to the place where it's supposed to be, in the House. Because I do believe that all the subpoenas that come out of there were no good. Nancy Pelosi, she refused to call for a vote. And, that's the way impeachments are supposed to start. It's been done through all of them. There was a vote, then there was an impeachment. I don't see a problem with anybody who's going to give a country $340 million to investigate any and all corruption they may see, whether it's the Biden, the Obamas, the Trumps.
I hear you. I mean, it's how you view it, whether or not, of course you want to investigate corruption, but if this is just something that turned out not to be a lot, and it's basically just to benefit the candidate or the president to get reelected, I just don't understand how people don't think there's a problem with that. This was not about him protecting the U.S. from something awful. This was about, I think, tainting Biden, which he may have successfully done, and getting him reelected. There's a big difference in my mind than what you were just describing.
This is the question, and whether it rose to the level of impeachable, that was the issue, and all the rest. But this president really does not operate in traditional manner with regard to foreign policy. He is a very transactional figure. He's made bargains with other leaders, and that's why I'm not prepared to say that were he reelected, I could see another impeachment if something else were to emerge about a bargain he makes with China, with some other country that might cross the line.
Gotcha. All right, let's go next to Jack. Jack, good morning. Hi, Jack.
Yeah, I want to ask the guy a question or two. Why has Obama not endorsed Biden if he's such a good vice president under Obama, and Obama was so pleased with him? If he wanted to get the African American vote, looks like he would have endorsed him. It looks like Bloomberg has got Obama's endorsement from the advertisements.
I saw the ad he's talking about. Bloomberg's running one now that doesn't have an endorsement, where it's from past clips, I think, where Bloomberg and Obama were together and the president was talking about him. So what about that, though? I mean, the president has yet to really come out for a candidate, right?
No, and he said it's not a position that's really unusual. Most past former presidents, I think Bush did this and Clinton did this in an earlier stage, although Clinton's was harder because it was his wife running, so of course that was assumed. But you don't endorse early on, at least, or at least this was seen as one of it. Although Ronald Reagan did endorse his vice president fairly early on, George Bush. So I don't know. I mean, there have been rumors, of course, that Obama, who has a great deal of affection for Biden, still may think that another candidate may make more sense. So whether those rumors are true or not, we don't know. But Biden or Obama has clearly. It is interesting that he has not endorsed Biden, and Biden says he never asked for it. So,
Right. So I think you're probably right. I mean, he'll wait a while, and he'll probably get behind whoever the Democratic candidate is. But the earlier he sides with if he just waits until the one last person's left standing, it wouldn't mean as much maybe as that, because you just say, well, I'm going to back whoever the Democrat is, as opposed to him siding with someone at some point beforehand. And if that individual becomes the candidate, then Obama's supporters can look at it and say, yeah, he was with him or her earlier on.
Where this is interesting is, of course, that Obama is supposed to not want Sanders to win, and that he doesn't think Sanders' candidacy would be very good for the Democrats. So some have speculated, there were stories that Obama will come into the race if Sanders looks like he's starting to become the front runner.
Okay, and then maybe endorse someone else. How in the past we've looked at various presidential endorsements and what they mean. I think there's no question it probably meant a lot to Bush when he got Reagan's endorsement. How important do you think is President Obama's?
President Obama's, I think, would be a significant move. It depends on when he comes in. There could be a certain momentum, but
and frankly, else his wife's endorsement.
His wife's, well, yes, Michelle's endorsement would be big.
I mean, I assume they'll be together on that, but an endorsement going that way and see how that plays out. And as far as there was some talk early on that there may be a Republican here or there, someone from the outside challenging President Trump for the nomination. Remember that several months ago?
Well, there is. William Weld is still in the race, but he got no support.
That's not going to go anywhere along that line. No. All right. So now that we're out of the impeachment proceedings, what's the next biggie? It's just following the primaries, at least on the Democratic side, and with regard to the president, where does he go from here?
That's interesting because obviously he laid out in the State of the Union a series of legislative things he'd like to see done.
Yep.
The question really will be is there any capacity for some bipartisan legislation? The Democrats might fear helping him more to be able to claim more victories. On the other hand, a lot of people would want things to be done.
Get some stuff done.
I mean, the president may spend the entire year basically campaigning and having rallies. It doesn't seem. There are some foreign trips. He'll get to enhance sort of the being on the world stage sort of thing. There could be another North Korean summit or something like that to try and shore up that image of him as well.
Yeah. If there's one thing I think that this president enjoys more than anything else, it's truly, and he's had a lot of them, even more so than other presidents after he was just elected. Right. He loves going to these rallies.
He loves the rallies.
He loves. You can just tell he enjoys it, and he cuts it loose, and they're oftentimes quite entertaining.
Yes, and that is a key thing.
Yeah, I think we'll see more of those.
Okay.
Professor, thank you.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure having you on. We'll do it again. We'll take a break. I'll be back with a programming note right after this, everyone. Stay with us.